It's just a kettle. You've lifted it 1,000 times. But this morning, your grip needed adjusting, your elbow tensed more than usual, and you noticed it, that slight shift from ease to effort. You didn't pull anything. You're not in pain. But something that used to feel automatic now asks for your attention. And when it happens again, with the laundry basket, with the car door, with the garden hose, you begin to realize the change didn't start today. It just finally made itself known. It's not that you're weak. You still do what needs to be done. But more often, you're bracing first. You pause before getting up. You think about which hand you'll use. You shift your weight to one side, not out of fear, just habit. And that habit is new. You don't need help, but you're using more of yourself to do less. And by the end of the day, you've used energy on things that used to cost nothing. No one tells you how strength leaves. It's not dramatic. It fades into the background of ordinary moments. You might have chalked it up to aging, and in part, that's true. Muscle does change. Recovery slows. But the story isn't just about years. It's about use, and signal, and how the body adjusts to what you ask of it, or no longer ask. Strength isn't about lifting heavy things. Not now. Not anymore. It's about being able to move through your day without negotiation, without breaking it into stages, without weighing what you can still do today versus what can wait. And when strength begins to fade faster than expected, it doesn't look like failure. It looks like smaller steps, longer pauses, a shift from walking through the house with purpose to drifting from one task to the next, always managing, never coasting. No one plans for that. No one thinks this is the month I'll stop trusting my legs. But for many, that moment sneaks in quietly and stays. You might think it's just you, or just the season, or maybe a sign to slow down. But sometimes, strength fades not because you've grown older, but because something deeper has shifted inside the body. And the good news is, some of those reasons can be seen, understood, and changed. In this video, we're going to look at 5 ways your strength might be declining faster than it should, and what small, practical steps you can take to help your body meet the day more easily again. Have you felt your strength changing, not in big ways, but in small, familiar movements? There are days when you don't leave the house, and yet you feel like you've done enough. You folded laundry. You answered a few calls. You cooked, or reheated, or tidied the counter. You moved, just not much. And over time, not much adds up. Not in weight, not even in stiffness at first, but in what the body forgets. Because muscles don't just need exercise. They need signals. And signals come through use, not necessarily intense, but regular, repeated, meaningful movement. When movement becomes optional, the body quietly begins to forget how often it once responded. You might still take out the trash. You might bring in the mail. But the stairs you used to climb now feel like a negotiation. And when something falls on the floor, your first thought is how to reach it without discomfort, or how long it can stay there. One study followed older adults living independently at home. Each participant believed they were moving enough. But when motion sensors were added to their daily environment quietly, without instruction, the results were consistent. Most were active less than 90 minutes per day, and much of that was slow, functional movement. They weren't being lazy. They simply underestimated how still their days had become. Because moving less doesn't always feel like stillness. You shift from room to room. You sit, stand, adjust. But it's not the kind of movement that challenges the muscles. It's not the kind that reminds them they're needed. And without that, muscle tone begins to fade, not all at once, but with each quiet day that blends into the next. The legs are the first to notice. You don't need research to tell you that. They're the ones that push the whole system upward, stabilize the frame, return you to motion after sitting still. When you stop asking things of them, they respond by doing less. This isn't about counting steps or getting a fitness tracker. It's about noticing when the day has become too soft. When your body hasn't been invited into action, even a little, it adapts by withdrawing. And as it withdraws, tiredness creeps in. Not because you did too much, but because you did too little to stay engaged. The body wants to participate. It just needs the invitation. What's one thing your body used to do easily, without a second thought, that now gives you pause before you begin? You sit down to eat, not because you're hungry, but because it's time. Maybe you have a slice of toast, some fruit, a warm drink. It's light, easy, familiar. And you think, that should be enough. But enough for what? At this age, meals don't just fill the stomach. They either support the body's repair, or they leave it running on memory. And what most older adults don't realize is that the body doesn't handle protein the same way it once did. You can eat the same amount you always have. You can even try to eat healthy. But your body now absorbs and processes protein more slowly, and the signal that says rebuild muscle is harder to trigger. So unless you're being deliberate with what you eat and when, your muscles don't get what they need to maintain themselves, and they begin to fade. This isn't about building bulk. It's about keeping the strength to get up from the couch without thinking, to carry your own groceries, to step confidently into the bath and out again. That kind of strength depends on muscle. And muscle depends on protein, not as a trend, but as a biological material. Most older adults eat enough to avoid hunger, but not enough to support muscle retention. The appetite shrinks. Portions get smaller. Cooking feels optional. And over time, the body takes in less than it needs, especially if meals are light, repetitive, or incomplete. But even when the food is there, absorption might not be. Low stomach acid, common after 65, makes it harder to digest protein-rich foods. Conditions like atrophic gastritis or medications like proton pump inhibitors lower acidity even further. The result? You're eating, but the body can't break it down the way it used to. The signal to the muscles is weak, and what isn't signaled won't rebuild. You may notice your grip has changed, that your legs feel thinner, that getting out of a car takes more work. It doesn't happen because of a single missed meal. It happens because the body keeps a running tab, and when that tab isn't paid, it starts closing accounts. One study found that people over 70 need almost twice as much protein per kilogram of body weight to stimulate muscle repair compared to younger adults. But most people don't know that. They eat the way they always did, or less. And the body adapts to what it's been given. There's no need to force protein powders or track grams obsessively. But there is a need to think of protein as a priority, something that deserves space at each meal, not just lunch or dinner. An egg, some beans, a spoon of peanut butter, yogurt with chia, a bit of fish, a slice of chicken, a handful of nuts. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it does need to be present. And when it is, not once, but regularly, the body begins to respond. Not with more weight, but with more readiness. Not with bulk, but with balance. Not with power, but with presence. That quiet physical assurance that says, I can still hold myself up. Is there a meal in your day that tends to feel light, simple, habitual, but might not actually be giving your body what it needs? There was a time when a scratch from the garden meant nothing. You'd clean it, maybe forget about it, and by the weekend it would be gone. Now, you check it twice a day. It doesn't hurt, not really, but it lingers. The skin takes longer to knit back together. Bruises take more time to fade. And when a muscle gets sore, the soreness doesn't leave after a night's rest. It waits, settles, sometimes stays for days. These aren't accidents. They're reminders that the body still repairs itself, but it no longer rushes. The same applies to muscle. When it's used, it breaks down microscopically. That's normal. But with age, the process of rebuilding slows. The signals get quieter. The response is softer. And without care, what used to recover quickly now lingers in strain. It's not that the body can't heal. It's that healing now asks for more rest, more fuel, more patience. And when life keeps moving while the body slows, the gap becomes visible. You bend awkwardly to reach a drawer. The next day, your back speaks in a whisper that lasts all morning. You take a long walk, not strenuous, just longer than usual, and your legs hum for 2 days after. That's not weakness. It's evidence that your body is doing the work of repair, just more slowly than before. One study on older athletes found that their recovery time nearly doubled compared to their younger selves, even with the same fitness level. The muscles responded, but more gently. They healed, but they asked for more time and support. And these were trained bodies. For most, that delay is even longer. This is where the misunderstanding often lies. You assume you're just getting older. You expect that soreness or fatigue will become the new normal. But sometimes, what's missing isn't ability, it's support. The repair is still happening, just beneath the threshold of your schedule. And when recovery doesn't finish before the next effort begins, the body adapts by pulling back. It offers less to protect itself, which means strength declines, not because the muscles are failing, but because they're not being given the space to come back fully. There's a different way to approach this. Instead of doing more to regain strength, the body often needs clearer rhythm. A little effort, followed by pause. A bit of strain, followed by softness. Enough space for the tissues to restore, and for the nervous system to stop bracing. This isn't rest as in doing nothing. It's the kind of rest that invites repair. Movement, yes, but without pushing past tiredness. Fuel, yes, but at the right times. And trust that progress can be made slowly, without visible speed. The body still listens, but it now whispers instead of shouting. Have you noticed that recovery from activity, from soreness, from something small now takes longer than it used to? There's a moment before you rise when your body decides what's possible. It starts in the feet, how they meet the floor, how the weight shifts forward. Then the knees register the message, and the hands, maybe without thinking, press against the armrests or the edge of your thighs. Sometimes you lean forward just a little more than you used to, giving gravity a head start. Sometimes you take a breath before moving, not to gather strength, but to center yourself. These moments are subtle. They don't feel like weakness. They feel like preparation. You rise. But now, it takes attention. At some point, your body stopped being automatic. You still move through the day, but less of it happens without planning. Turning quickly, stepping sideways, adjusting your balance on uneven ground. These are things your legs used to do without notice. Now they ask for clearance. Now they ask for certainty. That certainty often lives in routines. Same chairs, same slippers, same carpet path. Familiarity becomes a form of control, and it works, until one unexpected motion reminds you how little variety your body now encounters. Your legs haven't given up. They've adjusted. To smoother paths. To shorter distances. To movements that don't ask for much. But muscle doesn't just respond to need. It responds to demand. And when demand drops, even just slightly, the nervous system begins to quiet its signals. Balance, agility, coordination, they don't disappear. They dim. Think about the last time you climbed stairs without holding something. Not because it was unsafe, but because the act had become unfamiliar. Or the last time you turned in place quickly, without adjusting your step first. These moments are small, but they're revealing. When you stop asking your legs to adjust, to rise from a low chair, to step over a threshold, to shift weight mid-stride, the brain stops expecting them to, and the legs follow. This is how capacity shrinks. Not through injury, not even through aging itself, but through repetition, of ease, of comfort, of sameness. The solution isn't risk. It's variation. A few seconds of standing without support while brushing your teeth. A short walk that includes a curb. Rising from a different chair in the house. One that doesn't help you as much. No routine. No program. Just signals, clear enough to remind your legs that their work still matters. The nervous system doesn't ask for perfection, but it needs freshness. When you give it something slightly new, it responds. The hips adjust. The ankles wake up. The body remembers more than it forgets. And the strength that returns isn't brute force, it's presence. It's the kind of strength that stabilizes you quietly, holds you mid-movement, and gives you just enough extra to recover from a slight misstep without needing to think. Have you caught yourself adjusting how you move, not out of pain, but because your body simply expects less of itself than it once did? You didn't strain anything. You slept through the night. You haven't skipped a meal or forgotten your medication. And still, something in your body resists the day. It's not pain. It's not illness. It's a kind of slowed momentum. You get going, but slowly. You move, but cautiously. Even your energy feels like it arrives in pieces, not all at once. This is where inflammation lives. Not the kind that swells and burns, but the kind that lingers below awareness. Chronic, quiet, systemic. It affects muscle in strange ways. You're not injured, but you feel worn. You haven't done much, but your legs are slower to respond. You feel like you're starting behind, even when you've done nothing to set yourself back. And that kind of tiredness doesn't show on a chart. It doesn't demand attention, but it shapes the day from the moment you stand up. Inflammation draws from the same pool your muscles use to repair. The immune system, even slightly activated, asks for resources. And when that activation doesn't turn off, as it often does in an older age, your body keeps using energy just to stay in balance. That means less energy for recovery, less support for muscle tone, less clarity in movement. Researchers now link chronic inflammation not only to disease, but to muscle loss and fatigue. Even in people who feel fine, subtle markers in the blood often show low-grade activation of the immune system. You wouldn't notice it, but your strength would. It shows up in how quickly you tire, how slowly you recover from a short walk, how often you find yourself sitting longer than you meant to. The muscles haven't quit, they're being drawn into another job. A job you can't see, but still feel. And what fuels inflammation? Often, it's stillness. It's meals without fiber or color. It's long hours without movement. It's blood sugar that never quite settles, or stress that simmers without expression. The good news is that inflammation, like muscle, listens. You don't need a full diet overhaul or a new exercise plan. You need variety. Warm food with color. Movement that stretches, even gently. Fresh air. Moments where your breath deepens for no reason other than you let it. These aren't cures. They're signals. They tell the body it's safe, that it doesn't have to fight invisible battles all day. That strength can be used for living, not just surviving. Have you ever noticed a kind of tiredness that doesn't feel physical, but still slows you down in every part of the day? Strength leaves slowly, not with a bang, but with small decisions. You take the easier seat. You cancel the walk when the weather shifts. You tell yourself the stairs can wait. And they do. But your body waits too. And after enough waiting, it stops volunteering. That doesn't mean it's over. It means the invitation has to be clearer. The 5 reasons we've looked at: low movement, poor protein use, slow repair, less challenge, silent inflammation. They're not signs that something is wrong. They're signs that your body is ready to be asked again. Not pushed. Just gently reminded. Sometimes it takes one new signal. A stretch you haven't done in years. A meal that includes something bright. A walk that's 5 minutes longer or slower. Small things open the conversation again between your muscles and your movement. And with time, the legs begin to answer differently. The arms, the back, the breath, they follow. Not with strength like before, but with enough. Enough to meet the day. Enough to feel steady in your own space. If this video helped you name something you've been feeling, I hope you'll subscribe. We make these videos to hold space for real, physical experience, the kind that doesn't always get words. Thank you for watching and being here. Let us know in the comments. Where have you noticed your body adapting in quiet ways? And what's one small thing that helped you meet it differently?